Here we are. Welcome to Cricbuzz Combox. No, hang on a sec. The match is over. This is the time we're supposed to have had Cricbuzz Combox, but apparently they decided they wanted to finish the match 10 overs early. Just about 10 overs and 2 balls later, it's the end of the Scotland innings, so I should revise that and say, welcome to Cricbuzz Live. Why are we coming to you so early? Here's why. Afghanistan batted first, won the toss, 190 for 4. Was there going to be dew? Were the spinners going to have problem gripping the ball? All those questions were answered. All the boxes were ticked. 5 for 20, Mujibur Rahman. 4 for 9, Rashid Khan, playing second fiddle for a change. And just a little bonus for Naveen-ul Haq, thanks to a spectacular catch from Mohammad Shahzad. 60 all out from Scotland, and they really didn't look as if they just belonged on that pitch over there, even though they've taken such giant strides. Well, here we are. Since I said it is Cricbuzz Live, I will be joined by both Joy Bhattacharya and Harsha Bhogle. We missed out on a crucial Cricbuzz Combox, Harsha, so here we've got to do it all over again.
In my final year of engineering, all those 122 years ago, we had a subject called transport phenomena. That was full of high-level mathematics with a lot of integrals, and I would look at those, and some days the numbers would just swim around. I think they were reading that book today, Scotland. I don't think they were worried about whether the ball would grip or no. They were only worried about whether they can read. Joy would know this. When you're tossing a coin, it's not a game of skill. Right? I mean, you just say heads, and it could be heads or tails. I think when they were sweeping, it was a game of chance, not a game of skill.
Yeah, absolutely. And every time that they tried to do it, somebody or the other, every time they got it wrong, they got a wicket. And that was just the problem, that they just couldn't read Mujib or Rashid Khan. And I feel sorry for them because, they just got up against bowlers who they've never seen in their lives. And they might, as we were before the match, all the video in the world cannot compensate for actually playing people like that. And, Gautam, today it was just absolutely, it was a rout. The last time this happened, something like this, was when the English beat the Scottish guys at Solway Mass in 1542.
I knew there was a catch somewhere. 1542. But look at that, Gautam. 9 for 29 to the spinners. 14% of the runs came from an overthrow.
Good point.
Which should have been a run out. It should have been a run out.
And that was
Correct.
considered by
but if it
Mujib.
had been a run out, they would only have got 8 wickets between them.
Because he got a wicket in the very next ball, actually, if you think about it.
Yeah, it was quite something. And to think again, the first over, Nabi decided to come on himself as the captain. He bowled it. They went for 11, and you were thinking, is there something in this for Scotland? George Munsey looked as if he was very much up for the challenge. That's all it lasted. 1 over. From the second over onwards, it was a slide. Kutsa lasted a while. Then it was 0-0-0-0. The first time I believe it's happened where numbers 3, 4, 5, and 6 have all managed to get zeros in a T20 international game. And a brief stay for Greaves. And then it was, once Rashid took over, Joy, it was once you face Silla, then it's Charybdis who comes in there.
Yeah, well done. Another literary allusion, of course, the two monsters supposed to be on both sides of the Strait of Gibraltar.
I read that in Shakespeare in school. I've never read that again.
There's a reminder for you.
In school. Okay.
I think that's how far we need to go back to see such a comprehensive victory in a T20 international match. It's just absolutely amazing. That's the thing, that if you see what they did also, and in the middle of that, the only other wicket that went to a spectacular catch from a man who, if you asked him to go on a slimming diet, he would be completely out of order or place. And yet he just took off for that catch. Unbelievable. Mohammad Shahzad can still.
The only wicket that was not taken by either Mujib or Rashid.
Correct.
A little bonus.
And not bowled LBW.
Naveen.
And not bowled LBW. Only one catch.
That's true.
That too as spectacular as that. Oh, but I enjoyed it. I was walking around watching the game on my phone, and I felt like tossing my phone up because Shahzad was just waddling around in joy. I don't know if another keeper wouldn't have made it look difficult, but it was a stunning catch. For him to move like that, there's a lot of him, and all of him got there on time. It was fantastic.
I love it. All of him got there on time.
Yeah.
But he is a character. I mean, he's one
Lovely.
of those guys we were almost saying, as you said earlier, is it a bit of a gamble to get him back into the setup because he's been in and out of the side? Obviously, he likes to stand and deliver as a batsman, but you don't want him to be a liability as a keeper. And I think he's showing, Harsha, that with efforts like that, he can hold his own.
And he gave you a good start as well, didn't he? So he's playing that dual role. Yeah, I mean, for a time we thought we'd seen the end of Mohammad Shehzad. There's this lovely article of how he was going around during their Afghanistan T20 league and hoping to get picked again. And then he comes here, he whacks a couple, takes a great catch. He's delivered for his side. There were so many good performances today, and I think what Afghanistan have done is, for a long time, Afghanistan were in another league, and we thought Afghanistan were in the league of Ireland. Maybe just a little below Zimbabwe at the time, maybe Scotland, Netherlands. And now look what has happened. Where they have positioned themselves, they've beaten Scotland by 130 runs in a T20 game. They've just taken their game up. And I think here is a template. Here's a guiding light for every associate nation. Saying this is the way to go. What have Afghanistan done right? And I think they will find there's a lot of raw talent in Afghanistan. A lot of heart, there's a lot of passion, and cricket is a way beyond, is a way into a different world. But nothing. What was I trying to say? Words fail me in my description of what Afghanistan is. But listen, they batted well, they bowled well, and the one catch they took well. Fantastic.
Yeah, it's about doing the basics right. And I remember when we started the show, we were actually questioning Nabi's decision. Bat first, are you going to have enough runs on the board? Will Rashid be bowling with a wet ball? They obviously knew they had that insurance, or as we called it, it was an insurance scam to get those extra runs, the 190 that it was. But again, Joy, in the context of the other subject we've been discussing, we've got two new, very expensive franchises coming in, and you've got players like this. You've got a new emerging world of players coming in. That is going to be sort of a great match now happening.
Yeah, but Joy, can I quickly interrupt for half a second?
Go for it.
What did Gautam just say? They got their basics right. I thought that was the first of the triangle of great expressions. Getting the basics right, executing your plans, and keeping the momentum. That's
and right at the top is the boys played well.
I didn't know the basics right was banned yet. Momentum is banned on this show, but fair enough. I'll have to get to the others as well.
But you make a valid point about talent coming through, and more players will be needed. And one of the players they've not picked in this side, Afghanistan, is a wrist spinner called Qais Ahmed. You would have seen a little bit of Qais. Does he play the CPL? I don't know if
he does.
The CPL.
He's very much an integral part of the CPL.
There you go. And Qais Ahmed is not in the 15.
That just shows, again, the talent pool that you have. We were mentioning it briefly yesterday when we looked at India's 15 before the game. And we said, look, a measure of a good team is not necessarily by its 11, but by the quality of the players you've managed to leave out.
Yeah. I want to talk about something. This is a very interesting topic. There's a gentleman called Kiro. Okay. Kiro is known for his book on fingerprints and handprints and all that. Okay. And there is a whole art called dactylography. Okay. Dactylography is all about, what's in your hands now. But the size, if you see the size of even Mujib's hand and the size of Rashid's hand in proportion to what it is, they're quite big. And it begins to try and say that there's somewhere there. Is there some sort of a genetic advantage why Afghanistan is generating a whole lot of these finger spinners, mystery spinners, these big hands which are sort of controlling the ball? Because even to give strength, when you're pushing a ball through like that, you really need strength and you need big hands. And it's interesting.
And your hands are looking so scary. You're looking like a dactylosaurus or something. It's called dactylography, is it?
Yeah, dactylography is just
but you make a very valid point. Yeah, you make a very valid point about size of the fingers. Since you showed your hand, let me show mine as well, because I bowl leg breaks at school, university, college, university, senior division level. See the size of my fingers. That's small. That's it. And there's no wonder I could never get the leg breaks rip. I always found the googly easier to bowl than the leg break, because my leg break never ripped. It turned, but it turned slowly, because my fingers are that size. You look at Rashid Khan's fingers, and you talked about Mujib as well. Mujib should have been a puppeteer. because he could have used all those fingers like that to play the fingers, marionettes, picking up the marionettes. His fingers actually look like that, don't they, Gautam? When he's bowling, they actually look like that.
Yeah.
And he has sort of that loose action about him when he even walks or when he's just fielding. I was just trying to see what I could possibly do with mine. I was told pianist would be a future. I never took it seriously, but maybe never too late for a
You've
second
got
innings.
large. Yeah, you've got a large fingers for your size. Yeah, serious size.
Currently, he was using his fingers to tap, 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 tap and win his fantasy game.
Just about. Thanks to Mujib. Didn't have Najibullah. Got the runs on the board. Here's a reminder of what Mujib did against Scotland.
I think that's the producer gently saying, "Come back to the game."
Yeah, it's in many ways you can do that. 5 for 20. One of the top 5 figures of all time in this World Cup. One of the top 5 or top 2 victory margins in the history of this tournament as well. So coming back to Mujib, Harsha, it's one thing to say that Scotland just didn't pick him, but he has to still do his art. He has to perform his art in the best possible way. What makes Mujib special?
And he's got to control. He got the wickets. That's all right. Maybe the batsmen weren't reading them, but the balls were coming out of the fingers perfectly. They were landing on the spots as they could. Now he got a couple of wickets with that carom ball that goes like that. He got a couple of wickets with the wrong one. He bowled the off break from time to time. So he's bowled everything. So from his point of view, the release from the hand and where it lands is what he has control over. Thereafter, what the batsman does to the ball is something the bowler has no control over. So what are the things in the bowler's control? The release from the hand, where it lands, what it does after landing, and what field you have set. These are the variables. These are the things that the bowler controls. So from that point of view, he did everything right. I mean, he didn't need the fielders. They could all have been in the dugout and would have made no difference because they were getting them all bowled LBW anyway. So from that point of view, it's been a fantastic performance from him. Maybe batsmen could have attacked him a little bit and forced him to maybe push through the ball a little bit if they connected one or two. But from his point of view, it's just a perfect day. It's not his fault they couldn't read him.
Is there a lesson to be learned again, Joy, since Harsha mentioned attacking? If anyone even tried to attack him or Rashid, they were doing it in a manner of hitting across the line. Nobody was trying to attack straight. Is that going to be a lesson for other teams who are going to be playing them?
Look, I think other teams will be slightly more used to playing with players of this quality. I mean, Mujib, a lot of people would have seen him in the nets, played against him in Punjab. So perhaps you may not get the same degree of success that you have against him. And what happened out here was it was a combination of two things. There were 2 calls, if you see, by the Dharmasena, which were umpire's decisions. Finally, if the umpire had not called them, okay, they would have gone the other way. I mean, Bennington and McLeod both were out on decisions that were later declared to be. And then there was a review which they should have taken, which I think was
Chris Greaves,
which they didn't take. Which they didn't take.
Greaves.
So I think, so look, those things also make a difference because suddenly those 3-4 wickets fell and everything was, they sort of looked like, a deer has got his eyes in the headlights and just frozen out there. But that's going to happen only when you play against sides who are perhaps not this experienced at this stage. I still see them very serious bowling threats, but not the kind of threats that they were today. And Mujib to get 4 overs in a trot, perhaps, it's fantastic, great for him, but that's not going to happen every day of the week. Not against the kind of sides he's going to come up against.
Gautam's point is valid though that they played across the line all the time. They were playing the sweep shot. The sweep shot, either you really played well, you played for length, you know exactly where you're doing, you played somewhere there, sometimes you played there, you're in control. Quite often, the sweep shot is an indicator that you don't know what the ball is doing. And so you just say, okay, I'll pick the length and I will sweep because I don't know. If I go straight, then maybe it'll turn here, maybe I'll get stumped. Let me stay in my crease. What's the best stay in my crease, reach out shot is the sweep shot. And you'll find that across, it's not just Scotland. You'll see a lot of young England players who, when they don't know what the ball is doing, will sweep. So
Yeah, but sweeping depends on meeting the ball as early as possible. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Because sweeping means that I don't know which way it's turning. So I've got to meet the ball as early as I can. If I'm not, sweeping also therefore requires you to be decisive. If you're even the slightest bit indecisive and you're stuck in your crease, then you'll not reach the ball, then your sweep can top edge, a whole lot of things can happen. So that's the one thing. You're absolutely right. But Sweeping requires saying that if he's going to even go close to that length, I'm going to go up front. I'm not going to wait for the ball to pitch.
I
Well,
think
one
would have
thing,
taken
sir.
a top edge any day. Given they were getting LBW, they wouldn't have minded a top edge. But actually, I don't mind the umpire's call, Gautam. I don't mind the umpire's call because it means in the eyes of the umpire it was out, and technology cannot rule otherwise. So several times we look at the umpire's call and say, "Oh, that's not fair, man. There was an umpire's call." It means that the umpire was good enough for the ball to be that close, and technology cannot conclusively show that the umpire was wrong. So actually, I mean, the technology is saying, look, the ball was hitting by a probability of that error of only that much. So you go with the umpire. So, and also sometimes with those LBWs, if the batsman has moved a little bit after, then it can look like is it outside the offside. Maybe they didn't move, while they were moving. I don't know. Whatever the reason, I have no issue with a lot of those decisions.
Yeah,
I think it's just short of your
sometimes the only time when people talk about umpire's call, it's about when the ball has actually hit the stumps and it goes in reverse, as in it's given not out despite having made contact with the stumps. But we'll leave that for the moment. Let's talk about Rashid. Rashid the other day with 4 wickets. Rashid today with 4 wickets. That name is making waves. But today he actually played second fiddle to Mujib.
Actually, when Rashid came on, 5 had already fallen or 6 had already fallen when he came on, and he just ran through all the others. And it's almost like he was saying, you know what, I might be standing all by myself at deep mid-wicket or wherever he was as soon as the power play got over, or even before, but that's all I need. And the difference between Mujib and Rashid is because his arm action is so quick, you can't always see the release. So, and I mean, with Rashid, you've got to be able to pick whether it's the googly or the wrong one. It's not always that easy to pick. And I mean, when you're playing blind man's buff, you're just going on hope rather than skill, then that's going to happen. And because he bowls the wrong one so well, he's constantly attacking the stumps. It's no surprise that so many of them were LBW or bowled because both these bowlers are so straight, they're constantly attacking the stumps.
And sure, that's not the last we're going to see of them. But from Scotland's point of view, they've got a crucial match coming up. I know it's all about development. It's all about being there on the big stage, Joy. But in a couple of days' time, they play the one game where they'd fancy themselves to register a win. But they'll just have to pick themselves up from a defeat like this against Namibia in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, and Namibia is not the easiest side to play. A lot of veteran South African cricketers who are playing.
Okay, I'm going to come back to Joy on this. We can't hear him now. So I'm going to throw that at you, Harsha, for the moment.
Look at Joyce looking very perplexed, but I was making this wonderful point, and why can't you hear me anymore? I'll tell you something though. Scotland versus Namibia, that Namibia is a good side. And Gerhard Erasmus, he's a really good player, Erasmus. And David Wiese, of course, if the ball's coming on, he can hit through the line. They're a pretty good side, Namibia. So from that point of view, Scotland versus Namibia will be a good game. But you're absolutely right. For Scotland to say, you know what, we didn't just come here to make up the numbers. Yes, great celebration. We made the main draw. Remember, by the way, they've also got automatic qualification to next year's T20 World Cup, both Scotland and Namibia. So from that point of view, delighted. But yeah, they'll want that should be a good match, actually.
Yeah, and it's one thing. I mean, they'll want to hark back to the fact that, yes, Afghanistan have handed them this thrashing, but a few days ago, they've just beaten Bangladesh, test playing nation. Yeah. They've upset the group. They've gone to the group Bangladesh should have been in, and vice versa.
Yeah, I mean, all of us were thinking that they've actually made things easier for India. But then after the start,
Joy needs to refresh. Maybe Joy needs to refresh. Okay, maybe Joy needs to refresh.
That's what Scotland need to do, I think. How do Scotland refresh and not be caught napping in 48 hours time? I mean, what do you really say to it? I mean, it's one thing. It could be a very cliched thing, but they'll tell themselves, okay, next opponent is not in India, it's not a Pakistan. We have a bit of a respite, but not necessarily a team who are a pushover.
There's a statement that a lot of teams that lose badly make, and it's a valid statement, that forget it ever happened because we are not such a bad side. Just forget it ever happened. And let's just come out and remind ourselves that we are a very good side. And that happened because India did that after the 36 all-out. But already, we've had a 44 all-out from the Netherlands. We've had a 55 all-out from the West Indies. Now we've had today's game by Scotland. There's a lot of teams telling themselves, forget this game ever happened and let's remind ourselves of how good we were. So that is the opportunity for Scotland against Namibia. But I would like to see how West Indies are when they come up against South Africa.
Yes. But let's look at what this does to the points table as things stand right now. Maybe early days, but look where Afghanistan are. Look at that net run rate. Oh, it's not going to last very long, but nonetheless.
Do you know what Scotland have done? See what Scotland have done. Great friends of India. They've lifted us off the bottom.
Yeah, well, they were also keeping India company in that inaugural T20 World Cup in a tiny group with just India, Pakistan, and Scotland. So maybe some parallels to draw from there, but certainly Scotland versus Namibia is going to be a challenge as far as they are concerned. Joy, I know more than once you tried to get going, so maybe we'll give you a third time lucky to talk about Scotland picking themselves up. Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah. My basic point is that Scotland has to look at it as if to say there is absolutely nothing to lose, because this position they are in, they need a win. They're going to be there for the next World Cup. They've just got to pretend to be giant killers game by game, and they have to look at themselves and say, okay, we did really badly, but you know what? The West Indies got about 5 runs less than us, so perhaps we're not as bad a team. If two-time world champions, T20 champions like the West Indies can collapse like that, anything can happen at any point in time. So I think that's the way they have to look at it. And this format increasingly is see, the one thing they say is that in test matches you have 2, 3, 4 days, you have time to recover. You can recover. The problem with T20 cricket is once you collapse, it is that much more difficult to recover because the time period to recover is less. And therefore, you'll always get more upsets in T20 than you'll get in ODI cricket. And you'll always get more upsets in ODI cricket than you'll get in Test cricket. And that's the rule of the game. So Scotland just have to say, why this? I mean, Manchester United just lost 5-0. Of course, that's not so unexpected as a result as you think it would be.
You also lost out on Lucknow United. You also lost out on Lucknow United today.
It was such a lovely logo.
I know.
It just seemed right. But it was inevitable. We were
go and have a couple of 100 pipers. Scotland will go and have a couple of 100 pipers.
100 pipers. I tried to do the Scottish accent on the show last night. Didn't go down very well. But anyway.
No, I'm not even trying. Trying.
Scotland, but I like your 100 pipers pronunciation.
Yeah.
But my favorite Scottish accent is not from a Scottish player, but it's from Sikandar Raza from Zimbabwe. You have to hear him with his Scottish accent. First time I ever met Sikandar Raza, he walks up to me. How you doing? Sikandar Raza from studied in Scotland, but played for Zimbabwe. Actually from Pakistan. Scotland, yeah.
He's from Scotland, Sikandar Raza.
He did all his college in Scotland. So if you push comes to shove, you get that Scottish accent out there, and he loves to show it off. He loves to show it off. Pakistan, Scotland, and Zimbabwe. That's 3 nations out there. Let's go to 2 more nations.
That's 3 continents, actually.
3 continents. Fair enough, that is. But let's talk about a battle of continents that's coming up. Harsha briefly mentioned it, and it looks like it's going to be a spicy contest because West Indies are just coming off a not very enviable performance in the warm-up games. South Africa too haven't exactly been the South Africa we know in the past. So it'll be 2 teams out to prove a point. How would you best describe the start of that game, Harsha?
And it would also be both teams with a fear that if they lose this game, their campaign is going to be quite a long way back because you've got to win at least 3 games. If you've lost 2, then you're down in the dumps. And especially for South Africa, they try and tell themselves, you know what, we played a close game against Australia. I think it became a close game because neither side was good enough to make it an easy game. And I never thought I'd say that about Australia and South Africa, with 2 great sides currently playing. I'm not saying they're bad sides. I'm not saying they're playing badly. I mean, currently they're not playing to their best ability. They gave us a close but ordinary match from that point of view, purely from terms of skill. But for the West Indies, it's even more critical. I think I said South Africa first. I think it's even more critical for the West Indies because they've got to bounce back from 55 all out, and they're showing a few weaknesses. I mean, they sleepwalked through their warm-up games, and we gave them the benefit of the doubt, saying, you know what, you can't read that much into warm-up games. But the manner in which they played, they almost suggested as if the ball's got no right to. If the ball comes onto the bat, we will hit through the line and keep on playing that kind of side. So I won't be surprised if Roston Chase plays. And everyone thinks, Roston Chase. Just talking to Darren Sammy up and down to the ground the other day, he said Roston Chase will do to this side what Marlon Samuels did to my side. In both 12 and 16, if you remember, Marlon Samuels had a great game. So I suspect Roston Chase will come into the side, maybe for Evan Lewis, for Lendl Simmons.
That is
Does Chris Gayle open? Does Chris Gayle open the batting again?
Well, that's a big question. It's a big question that was asked during the CPL, and I'm glad you mentioned Darren Sammy, because he not only rates Roston Chase high, but Roston Chase played a huge role in getting his franchise, the St. Lucia franchise, to the final. And very unlikely player. Thought of him as a test player. He wanted to prove himself as a T20 player, and he got into that side. The day the announcement happened, you should have seen the smile on his face, because it was hard work that got him there, Joy.
Yeah, but Gautam, he scored a strike rate of 140 strike rate,
but he's still not regarded as a T20 player.
I think Roston Chase walks in. One of the things that we were talking about, Match Party the other day with Bharat Sundaresan, is that this is a tournament for also, you've had matches like today, but you're also, most of the matches, if you see, there are players, every team has that player who's batting 12, 13, 14 overs. That one guy who's constant on one side, everyone else is hitting around him. And I think Pakistan executed it so well that they didn't lose a single wicket. But if you see it, other teams have also executed exactly like that. So have a Roston Chase there, have guys who are hitting around him. And either, I know Chris Gayle was the highest scorer, but the highest score there was 30 of 13 odd balls. So it's not just Lendl Simmons whose place could be in danger, it could be Chris Gayle as well. But I think bowling did enough to show that I think it deserves another chance. I think one of Lendl Simmons or Chris Gayle has to give way to a guy who's going to bat 13, 14, 15 overs and allow the others to bat around him by not trying to hit every ball out of the ground.
Yeah, I think as Joy said, just to finish off on the West Indies, obviously their bowling has done enough. You can't judge it by the score that the batsman put on, but with someone like Akil Hussain, not just with the catch that he took, but he is one of the big finds of West Indies cricket. And if Hayden Walsh can also try and find some form, and they have those wickets to allow them, then they'll be a formidable bowling side.
Yes, and Ravi Rampal is canny. A lot of these pitches are about taking pace off. I think Ubaid McCoy is a pretty decent bowler. So then you have Bravo as your third, Russell as your fourth. You can play two spinners with Akil Hussain and Hayden Walsh. Does that diminish the batting? I don't think so. If Bravo is down to come 7-8, then I think you're pretty good. The other day he went in because he wanted to break up all the left-handers. He went in because there were too many left-handers there. But otherwise, if you're playing 6 Pollard, 7 Russell, 8 Bravo, then I think you've got enough batting. Then doesn't matter what comes. Then you can't play Akil Hussain, Hayden Walsh, Ravi Rampal, and Ubaid McCoy, all of them.
One of them.
If you want to play the two spinners,
Walsh misses out.
Yeah. So if you play both spinners, then either Ubaid McCoy or Ravi Rampal misses out.
Yeah. And of course,
we also want runs from Puran, no? At some point, some point Nicholas Puran is going to score runs.
Yeah, in fact, of all the players that you mentioned, the one that raised the most eyebrows on the day of the selection was Ravi Rampal, because there were a couple of other names who got missed out. And, well, once he's in there and he's shown that, I think it was horses for courses. The reasoning they gave on that day was...
Yeah. These are his kind of conditions. This is exactly the kind of bowling he does. This is his pitch to a T. In fact, my only problem with this West Indies side is West Indies has always had at least 4, 5, 6 reasonably athletic fielders. This is not the West Indies fielding team that you normally see out there. It's just got 3, 4 just older legs. It's not as agile a field. They don't have as many gun boundary riders as they used to. That's one.
Yeah, I mean, look at it from Dwayne Bravo's seen his best. Chris Gayle has seen his best. Ravi Rampal has seen his best. Lendl Simmons has seen his best. We don't know about Kieron Pollard and Andre Russell. So there's a lot of people on that side of the curve. Right from the beginning, I felt that, and I'd love to be proven wrong because I love watching that side. But I felt that maybe the West Indies could be the disappointment of this tournament. I'd love to be proven wrong tomorrow. Not that I want South Africa to lose, but I'd love to be proven wrong about the West Indies.
Yeah. Let's not forget they are the defending champions, but let's go on to South Africa, the one team who'd be dying to get their hands on a trophy at some point in time. And again, when you look at the captaincy, that's one of the areas where people look at relatively new to the job is Temba Bavuma. Are there enough names in there, particularly with the batting, that at least on paper cause tremors? We know there's quality in the bowling, Harsha.
Yes, especially because Rabada had a decent game again. So Rabada, Nokia, Shamsi, Maharaj. If they'd backed Rabada to bat at 7 or Maharaj to bat at 7, they could even have played Lungi and Giri. But now they've got to play that medium pace. And as it turns out in that close game, the last over from Pretorius turned out to be a little expensive. But they need something up there. They need something from Quinton de Kock. Rassi Fantadusen is a really good player, but he needs to take control. And David Miller just needs to re-switch his career and become the David Miller that we knew. So it doesn't look like there's a side that's saying there, come, look at me. Or which is the batsman who's standing up there and saying, don't worry, Mehuna.
And I reckon, Joy, the person who says that, his name is Faf du Plessis.
And he's standing probably in Pretoria and wondering what the hell is going on. Absolutely. I fully agree with you. I mean, a batsman in that kind of gun form not being there as a part of this team and being there available for selection for whatever might have occurred. And I mean, Mark Boucher is a sensible man. I mean, they will definitely miss him. This is a very fragile batting side. I think it's an excellent bowling side. I think this bowling side really, and given the fact that Nokia and Rabada have had a pretty good run in this part of the world during the IPL, that gives them the fact that you already have very, very decent spinners. So this is a bowling side that is formidable. It's the batting that's, really letting them down. And the other thing you notice is they just don't have, at one time when you looked at the South African side, you'd say all-rounders, Brian McMillan, Jacques Kallis, you have lots and lots of all-rounders, Johan Botha. You have a side full of all-rounders.
Pollock, Klusner, Boyer.
Yeah, they were always chock-a-block with all-rounders. And that's what you're not seeing in South African cricket today. You're not seeing really good all-round cricketers. And they have the India problem.
Again, Harsha, just to finish off on that discussion, we started talking about a Mehuna and it's Faf du Plessis not there. For South Africa, the all-rounder who's not there is someone like a Chris Morris.
Playing for Dwayne Pretorius. But here's the interesting thing, and we talked about that with Polly as well during the IPL. Chris Morris is seen like South Africa's overseas export, never seen as a South African player. So for some reason, South Africans look towards India with bewilderment and say, what do you see in this guy? And every year he comes and takes $1 million and buys half of Cape Town. What do you see in there? But can you imagine Morris at 7 coming in that instead of Pretorius? Now, if a Morris is playing there with Rabada, with Nokia, with Shamsi, with Maharaj, he's not playing as the lead bowler like he is for a franchise side in India, or say he was for the Royals. And so he's in his comfort zone. He's got to do a little bit of this and a little bit of this, which is the player that he is. So yeah, but he doesn't play enough domestic cricket. I think with Faf was asked, will you play? But Faf already had commitments with all the franchises that he had signed up for. So he could not play what was required of him. So no Faf. AB went through in 2019. I'm available. No, I'm not. Yes, I am. No, I'm not. So AB not available. And those are probably not their 3 best players, certainly the 2 best players and Morris in the mix. But there's no point thinking who's not there.
There's no point thinking who's not there. It's going to be quite a contest between South Africa and the West Indies. Another quick turnaround and a spicy match for very different reasons is going to be match number 2. This is coming to you from Sharjah. Pakistan buoyant after that victory against India, but it is a strange old thing. Met a few Pakistani fans in Dubai last night after the game. And normally you expect, all the accolades and everything saying, we beat India. They were saying, job only half done. The one we really want to win is New Zealand. And Harsha, obviously, there are a few other reasons for it, not reasons we would have wanted. But certainly after the tour cancellation.
I've long held this contrary view. I think New Zealand, England not going has helped Pakistan. Because they ended up discovering that playing a lot of players in their domestic cricket who would not have got a game otherwise. And they were not on view yesterday. But Fakhar Zaman comes back in. Haider Ali comes back in. So many they probably wouldn't have come in. But I think that's a huge game. Yeah.
No,
I
you
think
make a
that's
good point. I
huge
was just
game for
giving
the
you the
group.
fans' perspective.
Yeah. And the fan should think, a rational fan should think like that. I think there'll be a larger number of fans who will say, "Ab kuch bhi ho, koi baat nahi, humne match to jeet liya hamari," which a lot of Indian fans say when you beat Pakistan as well. But
No, but
for the entire group, it's a great game.
no, I'm also thinking that every Indian fan who's actually watching the game and reading the game would be supporting Pakistan tomorrow. Because what you really want to do is
India's
knock them out of
only chance
contention.
of topping the group.
Correct, but I think that is a
knock
far
them
too
out of
distant a
contention.
dream. There might be a group of fans who say, "Come on, New Zealand, beat Pakistan. Then we will beat New Zealand, get a three-way tie, and then start
And top the
demolishing
group.
everybody else and go up a net run rate." But you know what?
Yeah,
Dreams
exactly.
are called dreams for a reason. So it'll be interesting to see what the average. It's a good poll to put out actually tomorrow. Hey, India, are you supporting New Zealand or are you supporting Pakistan tomorrow? It happens so
because,
often in the IPL,
yeah.
isn't it? Every day you're supporting a different side.
So two different
Yeah,
reasons, Joy, as you put it, for supporting. I mean, you need to support New Zealand if you're thinking long term of topping the group, and Pakistan for different reasons.
Yeah, my point is that if you look at New Zealand, what you have to look at is say that, can I make up that net run rate? That's the thing. That's the question. And every team will be looking at Namibia and Scotland and saying that, how much am I going to get there? Because, that's the one that you're going to do, and that's the one that's not in your control. And everyone will say, you're not going to get crushing 100-run victories or 120, 30 runs victories every day. You're not going to. I'm sure Scotland will put up a better result, and so will Namibia. So if you don't get those results, perhaps you're better off saying that if Pakistan beat, then I have a better run at number 2 than I do otherwise.
Well, let's have a look at the squads. I'm not sure there's any reason for Pakistan perhaps to change such a recent winning combination. Everyone, they seem to have ticked all boxes, Harsha. Is there any reason you'd want to look at anyone else for the moment?
No, five proper bowlers. I think the big plus for them was Shadab bowling 4 overs the other day. But to cover up for that, he'd already bowled Hafiz for a couple of overs. And so as it turned out, Imad Wasim didn't bowl that. The only concern could probably be the 5th bowler. Hassan Ali tends to be a little predictable, but he's also the tonker who will win you games from 8 and 9. But they've got Hafiz, so the track is gripping a little bit. Hafiz will be your 6th bowler. But these are generally 5 very good bowlers, so they don't have to. With Pakistan, you never have to worry about the bowling. It's whether the batsmen are doing enough. And what happened with what the bowlers did against India was keep the score down to allow Pakistan to bat the way they like to play. If you see, the finishing kick came much later. For a long time, they were scoring at about 6.5 and over, which is how they like to start. The bowlers allowed them to do that. Now, if they are batting first, then I would like to see how Pakistan structure there, because they're up against a good bowling side. Make no mistake. Trent Bolt, Lockie Ferguson, who's a third seamer? They'll play Tim Southey maybe, or Kyle Jamieson, maybe Tim Southey as the third. I would have preferred they play Adam Milne, but he's not in the side. He's the reserve player. Ish Sodhi is a perfectly fine leg spinner, and they'll probably play Santner, Joy?
Santner? Yeah. Santner,
Yeah.
100% Santner.
With
He
Nisham
did
as a
well in the
6th bowler.
warm-up games. Yeah, absolutely. So this is an excellent side. This is an excellent New Zealand side, but it's a relatively untested side. And other than Kane Williamson, they have talented batsmen. They don't have regular batsmen who've scored tons of international runs. That's the one thing. Glenn Phillips is a talented player. Tim Seifert is a talented player. But really, if you look at that, it's Guptill and Williamson who scored the bulk of runs. And Guptill has never done well,
In Asia.
anyway, in Asia. So that's the one thing you look at Williamson and say you're the main guy. The interesting thing is that the only change I'd look at for Pakistan as well is to say, can Haider Ali... I know why they picked Shoaib Malik and Mohammad Hafiz for the last match, because it's an India-Pakistan match, and those are the matches where those old war horses sort of smell the gunpowder and go for it, because they've played so many of these matches. Now you don't have the pressure of that kind of a situation. Why play 2 40-year-olds? I'd probably say, given between Shoaib Malik and Mohammad Hafiz, pick one of them. I'd still pick Hafiz because I think he's a bit fitter and he bowls a little bit more. Right now, though, Shoaib was a decent bowler in his time. And then say, get in a Haider Ali, because he's a young gun who I think they need to give a bit of a run to. I wouldn't change anything with the bowling right now.
I think the reason they picked Shoaib is, and Gautam, you're in the CPL where Shoaib couldn't put bat to ball, right? He could not score a run for love of money or whatever. But the reason apparently they picked Shoaib the other day was because they realized that there's not a lot of 140 plus bowling happening here. They think that Shoaib with age has lost the ability to play fast bowling. But on these tracks, he'll be very good where there's a lot of 130 under 130 kind of bowling. And that was the reason I think they picked Shoaib Malik the other day. But with the West Indies, with South Africa, sorry, I'm called every team except the right one. With New Zealand, there's only one with genuine pace, right? New ball Bolt might do a bit. There's only Ferguson, so I don't know. They might still pick him again. I don't know.
Well, that is
but you make a valid point. Hyder Ali is the future.
It'll be interesting to see if they do go with it or purely say winning combination 2 days later. Let's just take the momentum and go. Oh, so we're not supposed to use that word. Let's just take
mass into velocity.
There you go. We've got physics lessons as well coming in. But yeah, Devon Conway, one more X factor for New Zealand who could.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, Gautam. You've seen a lot of Glenn Phillips, Tim Seifert, and the others there. Now, normally Tim Seifert opens the batting, Phillips slots it anywhere, right? Where does Conway play in that side? Do they say, okay, Conway, you open, and Phillips and Seifert bat 4 and 5?
Yeah, I think that's going to be the issue with Conway is where they slot him in, because both Phillips and Seifert are sort of flexible. They prefer it. Give them a choice. Both of them would want to open with each other. But obviously, you've got someone like Martin Guptill out there with that experience. But I mean, Phillips, you're missing out on something if you're not letting him open the batting. Seifert's a great finisher. So that's a great swap you can have in there. Conway, where they slot in, maybe 3 or 4. Certainly he's shown he's an asset, not just in T20 cricket, but in Test cricket as well. So should make for a great contest between Pakistan and New Zealand. Now, with all the numbers that we threw out there and all that confusion, Joy, you managed to come in with that non-numerical, or actually it is got to do with some big numbers. Your quiz question.
Yep, it does have. It does have to do with numbers and pretty substantial numbers. So here goes. If the top 3 performances were at the Eden Gardens in Kolkata, the Westpac in Wellington, and the Hola Stadium in Indore, which ground was the setting for the 4th performance in the list? And obviously, it was the Manuka Oval in Canberra. These were the 4 highest T20 international individual scores of all time. Obviously, the top on the list is Rohit Sharma's 264. Then you have Guptill with 237.
You mean ODI? Sorry, ODI. Yes.
Guptill with 237, Sehwag with 219, and then Gale in the same World Cup as Guptill got 215 at the Oval. But these are the top scores of all time, and I hope
I can tell you one thing, Joy, before you announce the winner, that if Rohit Sharma had made 264 in a T20 international, I don't think even journalists at a press conference would ask for him to be dropped.
Well played. Absolutely true. I completely agree.
I think there should be a rule. Like happens in most press conferences. You say, I'm so-and-so from this particular publication, and this is my question for you. So at least everybody knows who this wonderful specimen of humanity is.
But it's supposed to be a rule.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought Virat Kohli got player of the match for performance off the field for his response to that.
Oh, the expression was $1 million.
Yeah.
I have.
So who won it today?
Yes,
which pseudonym of Joy won it today?
Come on. Partner, okay. I'm sorry. This is an old, I would like to say old flame perhaps is not the right thing, but an old hand in this game. But well done, partner.
We had Tonmoy who came in yesterday, by the way, Joy. So all the usual suspects are there. We want to get in. Our objective throughout this tournament is to get in as many new names as possible. I had thrown in an X factor one day saying that let's have a rule. If you've answered 3 questions, that's it. You're done. We'll give you an honorary mention. We'll get some more people in there.
Does technology allow firewall? Does it allow you to block answers from anyone who's got more than 2 right? Or can we just say if you've got more than 2 right, you're out of the contest? You can enter. We'll say okay, he did send first, but he's not the winner today.
But I think what we'll do is, I think the best way to do this is actually do a simple one. Do a Hall of Fame, which is show every time so they know that okay, these guys are there. Hall of Fame, you guys are done. You're out of it. Now let's see a new winner.
Fair enough.
But you're sure it's not you
6, Parth on 4.
Harsha, I don't type that fast. That many people that fast, I don't type.
Harsha, after all the years of the school quiz, you would know the kind of talent there is out there.
Oh, it's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. The other day, I saw an article about the old quiz that we did. So maybe we'll talk about it another day.
Please send it to me, Harsha.
Okay, I shall do that.
It's amazing the directions the show takes. We love it. We absolutely love it. We've talked money, we've talked politics, we've talked physics, geography, history, lots of history. We went back to the 15th century. We talked about literature. Shakespeare came in there, Scylla and Charybdis. So you never know what you're going to get on this show. And it's always a pleasure to have Joy and Harsha along with us. Thank you all for joining us. Double header coming up tomorrow. South Africa, West Indies, Pakistan, New Zealand. Lots to look forward to. So until we see you then, thank you, Joy. Thank you, Harsha. And see you all on Cricbuzz Live.